to order this meeting a little after 7 o'clock. First thing we need is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion for that?
Yeah, I move that we approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye also. And you guys got a chance to review the minutes? And if so, did you have any additional comments? And if not, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as given.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye also.
Any second?
Pardon me?
Second.
I will
Oh,
second.
yes.
I'll
Pete-
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye also, thank you. No items on the consent agenda, so we'll move on. No items on the administrative agenda, but we do have a legislative item. So we'll go ahead, and you don't have a presentation, or are you just gonna stand up and talk about it, Josh? Just wing it, show us what you got, baby. Show us your professionalism then,
Or
baby.
you through a PowerPoint to discuss this ordinance amendment. Brett got through all the preamble faster than I thought a
Sorry about that.
lifesaver
We
would.
can chat for a minute. Anyway, so for the legislative session, we'll be discussing Springville Community Development will be seeking to amend Title 11 Development Code and Title 14 Subdivision Regulations concerning development approval processes. We're hoping to make this easier or more difficult.
Easier on everybody.
Good.
So Laura would have been here and present this today, but she is home
Nursing a tooth.
nursing a tooth. The basic gist of this, as I mentioned in the staff report, is that we are consolidating and clarifying a number of procedural elements in our code. The code has, especially for those that are new, in our code we have both regulatory or entitlement type provisions, which say what you can build on a piece of property or how wide a road needs to be, how tall your house can be. We also have procedural provisions that say this is how you go through the process of getting approval to build a house or a road or a subdivision. So it tells you what you need to do to get that entitlement. So none of the amendments that are before you tonight affect entitlements. What they don't affect what somebody can build on any lot and anywhere in the city, but simply how the process works to get somebody through that process, both in terms of what are the required elements of an application, what makes an application complete, and then what are the pieces of, like for a subdivision plat, all of the elements, north arrow, scale, all of those things that are required to be a complete application. And that's important because once somebody has submitted a complete application, they are vested in the ordinance at the time of their application. So they are essentially, they earn the right or have the right to have their application reviewed based on the ordinance in place at the time of their application, but not until they have a complete application are they vested. So the big element of this, there's two primary big elements. The first is that most of the requirements for condominium plats are at the state level, and we previously had a whole bunch of stuff that duplicated, and in some cases, because it was old, contradicted, updated state code language that's in the Land Use Development and Management Act. So we're striking everything out of our code that doesn't need to be there. I really prefer across the board not to duplicate language, but to use references and citations so that when we update one piece, and as long as we don't renumber it, the reference still works. But if we have the same thing copied in multiple places and forget one, then we get inconsistencies. And when we have inconsistencies between state code and city code, just complicates the process because this state code always wins essentially, but it makes it confusing for applicants and for staff to review. So on that condominium plat and new condominiums and condominium conversions, we're simplifying that down to essentially look at the state code, and that will govern the application. On Lakeside Landing, or the Lakeside Landing Special District overlay, Genevieve was here when that came through Planning Commission, and Brett, you were on the council at some point during that consideration. The development group or team that came together among the multiple property owners to propose, finance the creation of that ordinance and that plan. We had spent a long time on it, and they were particularly interested in moving across the line to secure, like we were talking, secure their entitlement, get it on the books, get the property zoned so they could say, hey, I actually have the right to build something here. They did not initially have a procedural section in the code that said this is how you go through the process, this is what you need to submit, this is who reviews it and how that's reviewed. So we took everything out of our existing code that does that and moved it into Lakeside, or essentially copied into Lakeside overlay and made the tweaks that were needed to accommodate the differences between the Lakeside overlay and the existing code. What that did is exactly what I just talked about, is that it created a duplicate of those procedural sections that when we last year or earlier this year came to you to change the subdivision ordinance to align with state law, such that subdivision ordinances or subdivision plats don't need to come to the Planning Commission and City Council. They can be and should be approved by administrative land use authority. Basically, staff checks the boxes whether they've met the code. Lakeside still has that old ordinance in it that says it has to go to this Planning Commission, then it has to go to the City Council for both preliminary and final, and as well as some other provisions that are holdovers or vestiges from our code, like you have to submit a landscaping plan. Well, when you're bringing in a 160 lot subdivision across 15 acres that has parks and yards, and the Lakeside code says you have to have a certain number of trees and you have to have a certain number of shrubs and bushes. So imposing that landscape plan requirement on a preliminary subdivision is, one, really out of order and really cumbersome, because who knows how it's going to change. So having somebody design their irrigation system before we've even gotten a preliminary subdivision approved just doesn't work. So that's the other major area where we have stripped the majority of that out of the Lakeside overlay, moved it into the section of code, and essentially just created a section for the Lakeside overlay, and then clarified the code by taking all the references for the Lakeside overlay, not the Lakeside Landing Special District overlay. Because when the code was written, it was anticipated that you would have a Westfields overlay that gave you all the density bonuses and everything you needed in the Westfields, from 4th West to the first set of railroad, the second set of railroad tracks, 1600 West. And then there would be another overlay across the other side of the freeway, the Lakeside overlay. That was never employed, never put on the ground, and essentially superseded by adopting this Lakeside Landing Special District overlay. So we fixed all those references, took all the stuff out that's not applicable anymore, and then put into the code the specific sections out of Lakeside Landing overlay that describe that process, and then left whatever pieces in the Lakeside Landing Special District overlay code itself that needed to stay there to keep that workable. So that's the high-level discussion of what we've done. If there are any specific questions about specific code, pieces of the code or provisions or changes we've made, I have the red line text of the code in front of us today, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
I tried to make it through the whole, but I didn't. But on the item you were using as an example, on the code, this will not preclude the city from coming out with those requests after they've provided an initial design or whatever. We can still talk about, we can still include landscaping.
Yes, that's moved to final.
Okay, that's so fine.
Or
Final. That's fine.
even
But also,
beyond it.
also architectural stuff, that's in the final as well.
Yes, that actual architecture review comes with building permit. So there's really 3 review stages when you're dealing with a subdivision. You've got the actual subdivision plat. We'll talk about, let's do the Smiths, for example.
Okay.
So that was a subdivision plat that platted the Smiths and the pads up front and all of the easements and everything that needed to be there. And then as each individual pad has been developed, they come in with a site plan review, which is basically the specific engineering for McDonald's to make sure they're connected to the utilities at the right spot, their setbacks are right on the parcel, all of that. And once they get a site plan approved, then they come in and get a building permit. And the building permit is where we review to make sure that all of their architectural standards are met, as well as sometimes in the site plan we do review elevations. So nothing has changed in terms of site plan or building permit review, but we have changed the subdivision and moved some stuff around. And we'll continue to come back to you with some additional refinements of that as we work with a home builder that's going to take down the majority of the lakeside area and has worked and they haven't necessarily worked, but they have a staff member who worked for Daybreak for a really long time and helped build a lot of the processes that they use to track permitting and submitting, hundreds and thousands of houses in a year and keeping track of when it's best to review what and how to make that easy for staff and applicant. So we'll continue to come to you with refinements.
Those are the destination homes, Jay? Miller
This
Group.
Destination Homes was a former employer of the Visionary Homes is actually the builder that's looking at a majority of this area in Lakeside, and a guy named Mike Hathorn, who used to work for Land Reserve and then worked for Daybreak and Destination Homes, now works for Visionary. So there'll be more to see.
Thank you.
When you were talking about the Lakeside Landing versus
Lakeside overlay.
overlay,
Yeah.
so is it just semantics? Is it
No,
just
they're
or
really
is
two
it-
different things.
They are two different things.
And we've never used the Lakeside overlay,
Okay,
so we're just stripping it all out of the code.
so there's still like areas over there that we might do the Lakeside overlay
No.
on?
No, we will
We went with Lakeside
landing special district overlay. Yes. Yeah. The Lakeside Landing versus
Semantics
just
are important.
Lakeside. Yeah, so we've stripped all of the references to Lakeside out of the code because we never used it and we don't anticipate using it, and it doesn't need to be in there.
So I've got a quick question for you, Josh.
Yes.
So we've talked, a lot of these things are pulling the planning commission and the city council out of this review process,
Yes.
and it just goes to land use authority, which is
Correct.
basically staff, right?
Correct.
So my big concern about that is that at what point is there a review that comes when someone makes an application that comes before this board or commission and the planning commission? Because it seems to me like now everything's going under the bridge and we're not reviewing it, we're not looking at it, am I missing something, or is that?
No, you're not. And really the legislature is working to take the majority of administrative approvals away from the planning commission and the city council. They're not political, they're not subjective, they are entirely based on, like we've talked about a little bit, comparing legislative and administrative actions. Administrative actions are completely and totally based on whether the application meets the ordinance, and the only criteria or the only evidence we can use to make that determination is substantial or objective evidence that's on the record. So when we come to a planning commission meeting for a subdivision and people stand up and say, this is going to be terrible, it's going to do A, B, or C, and life is going to be bad, you actually don't have the ability to consider any of that in making that decision. You just have to look at the code and say, does it check the boxes? And the philosophy, or what we've really felt as planners for a number of years, is that those requirements that come to the Planning Commission actually increased discontent among the public because they felt like they weren't being listened to. Like, I went to the Planning Commission, we said it's going to, children are going to die and my house value is going to decrease. And not to make light of concerns, but that's
I understand.
kind of the bingo list of
Sure, I
them.
understand.
And nobody listened to me. What we really need to do here is, when we developed the Lakeside Plan, we come through the Planning Commission, we hold public hearings, because that's all legislative. That's all up to you to listen to the public, to make a recommendation to the City Council, and the Council to use their legislative power to adopt that or not. And essentially, once you've adopted the plan that says these are the requirements, this is what we want, the legislature is saying staff is qualified to determine whether or not the subdivision meets the rules. So they're really looking for you to set the rules and for us to be the compliance officer.
It's like mostly clerical.
Does that open the city up for for review, as far as like if somebody felt like that they weren't treated fairly? Because there is some interpretation to the code, right?
Always, in both ways. I don't think it differs. Obviously, I don't have anybody from legal here with me tonight, but can provide many stories of applicants coming to planning commissions across the state and being told or being required to do things that the planning commission couldn't legally required, or the planning commission making decisions based on dubious findings. And that's why that's one reason we have a state property rights ombudsman, is because then he gets to call somebody in the morning and say, you need to straighten up and fly right. And the same would be true at the staff level. So we have to be just as diligent in making sure that we're basing our decisions off of the objective criteria in the code. And those administrative hearings are actually public meetings, and they're noticed. Usually nobody shows up, so we just have them in my office. Like today, Heather walked in and brought me the plans for the new seminary building at Springville High School, and I went through the staff report, saw that everything was checked and that the DRC, Development Review Committee, had reviewed it and approved it, and I signed on the line. And that was our public meeting, and that staff report and my signature is public record. But yeah, you're not wrong to see that it's taking a majority of that administrative or clerical kind of review away from Planning Commission and City Council and focusing you more on setting the policy and the higher level direction.
Not if they're meeting policy, but what the policy is.
Not if the lot is the
Our
right
role
width,
and
but
everything
how.
else that's in
Yeah,
it.
you tell us how wide the lot should be and how wide the street should be, and then we go and look at the plans and see if they are or they're not.
The state code doesn't direct that, right?
It does.
State code directs how big the lot.
Oh, no. We develop our land use regulations, but the
You're right.
state code dictates how we process applications. After we've made the rules.
After you've made the rules, then they say these are the process that you follow along the rules.
Says you can't go have a public hearing in front of the planning commission. You can't go do X, Y, and Z. Once you've set the rules, this is the process you have to grade the submission, essentially.
I mean, what you're talking about? You're worried about the language, the interpretation of the gray areas that may arise. That they're going to go to your desk basically, and you're going to interpret.
And there are those, and we rely on our legal staff and the other departments. Like we just had a subdivision that we did a first review on, and there was some question over whether a pathway at the end of a cul-de-sac was required to the next street as per the code. And legal worked through that with staff and Public Works, and said this is the position, and that's what we provided, the response we provided to the applicant. So yeah, even if everything was feet and inches, there'd still be something that popped up where you had to look at it and say, what does that mean, or what is that?
It's work. I know we've talked about this before, I think before, when, maybe a year ago when we talked about
Yeah, when the state
this,
made us-
right, and I think that the good thing about having a board or a broad view of different people, it provides us with kind of a wider perspective of what the city should be, and kind of helps represent all the people in different aspects of it. Some people will have different opinions, things like that, and I think it does protect the city because we have that. But it sounds to me like what we need to do is to make sure we're doing that when we're writing the rules.
Yes.
Because we used to have a lot more that came before planning commission, but,
Correct.
and I know the economy's changed a little bit, but I don't know, we don't really know what's going under the bridge.
It's been slow, but you will not see a site. You will essentially not see a site. Well, bigger site plans, you may still see them. That didn't change as much. We haven't had a lot of those, but you will not see a subdivision again.
And the city council won't either.
No. If they,
Josh, I'm so sorry.
What?
Can I make a comment?
sure.
Also, the administrative approvals, those are noticed and they are public meetings. So just because it happens in Josh's office doesn't mean we're trying to be, under the table or anything like that.
No, I totally agree with that, but our biggest challenge is to getting the public out here. I mean, obviously.
Yes. It's the policy setting level that we need people to engage, because if they come, once a subdivision has been applied, that applicant is vested in the code, and if it meets the code, we have to approve it unless somebody can present substantial evidence to say that it doesn't meet some objective aspect of the code.
Sure. Yeah, because I've seen both sides of that. Personally, I've seen both sides of when we've tried to do some development where, yeah, we meet all the code, but then
The city still tries to get you for
Bob's
something.
just really loud, and so then it's like you just go through this process of futility, so, okay.
Yeah, it's also made it, unfortunately, more difficult for us to expedite and be flexible in working with development applicants. We've noticed that it's not uncommon that the legislature puts forth some type of legislative solution to a perceived problem that then creates multiple unanticipated, what do you call that? Things you don't anticipate that are not good. And so before we can review anything, we have to have every single item in there, because we only have so many swings at it now. And if they submit us a new thing, they can't say, hey, we're gonna get you the stormwater later. We just push it back across the desk and say, you need to address every single comment or we can't do the next review. So gone are the days of, hey, yeah, we'll work with you on the power, or hey, let's figure out this offsite storm drain thing while we're working through the rest of it. All of that is gone, and it's turned very much into the classic bureaucratic checklist of, here, take it back, bring it back when you've checked that box. But it's just a box. Sorry.
Well, I think that's actually a very good thing, though, for the developers, because then they're forced to address all those issues, because they can get all the way down to the end, and then someone says, well, you don't have the stormwater, or you don't have this or that, and then it's almost, you're so deeply invested, it's cut out a house or do something like that. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
But I just will say that I think your comments are really valid and good comment. I agree that it needs to go this direction. The only thing I would encourage is that we really do a great job publishing these public hearings, even though they're administrative. People probably still won't show up. I mean, we see all at least I see all the Facebook stuff, and still no one comes. They love Facebook, but they don't love coming to this. But yeah, I just think really continuing, because this has been a struggle in the past as
Right.
well, continuing to just look for better ways to get people involved if they have a dog in the fight,
For sure. And we're continually really working on that on the legislative side. Like in this near future, you will see the station area plan, and we're putting together a meeting on that plan. What night is that? September 4th. Oh, yeesh. September 4th. And we have like essentially 1,000 postcards ready to go to every business and residential address within a half a mile.
That's above and
As in
beyond.
next week.
Yeah. So they'll go out by the end of the week. And, you know, people have already seen it. We've already had an open house, but we want to make sure both for the real intent of doing it and because it's important, and also so that when we would come back to you and to the council, we can say, yes, we didn't just post this on the state website. So we're continually trying to make improvements there.
Thank you.
How much more of the code is there to flesh out?
Of which code?
I mean, you're talking about all of the check the boxes, all of the, I mean, how much of it's written in stone and how much are you still playing around with?
Well, I mean, it is what it is right now, but as part of the general plan, it's like Bono said at Glastonbury in '89 or whatever it was. We got to go away and dream it all up again. And so we're going to go away and dream it all up again, and that's what the consultant team is scoped to do as part of this current general plan and code review process.
How is that going, by the way?
It's progressing. We're behind schedule, but our current schedule with as much recovery as we feel comfortable with is looking at April for actually bringing you a plan in a public hearing. Well, no, actually bringing the planning commission. Here's the general plan. This is the public hearing. Recommendation to the council. April.
We'll be able to look at that before.
Oh yes, yeah. There's the community board starts reviewing element drafts in November. There will be meetings. There will be a big public open house.
Right. And that's the input you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where people need to say, how do we want this city to be?
Yeah.
Right,
that-
because if they don't show up
people
when we're
here.
doing the general plan,
Yeah.
then once somebody comes in to do something that we told them they could do in the general plan, it's
Yeah.
really hard to say.
It's in motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. You know, it's
Or if it's something they couldn't do.
right,
I mean, we get that all the time,
right. Oh, why can't I do this? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's not part of the plan.
So we're definitely, we have tried and I think had decent success, but are continuing to try to evaluate where we can fill in the gaps with who has been involved and who we've reached through the general plan process, and make sure that at the end we can represent that it's been as inclusive a process as possible.
So do you feel like that we have a good set that you and DRC can work through to say, yeah, this meets or doesn't meet?
Right now, yes, and we have really clear checklists to say these are what you need to submit, and Power is just updating their standards and specs. Public Works has very detailed standards and specs. You've seen, you know, every driveway detail and sewer collar and everything is in there. We know exactly how wide our streets are and how big the lots need to be. There's very little that is subjective when we're doing a subdivision, especially out in Lakeside where it says you have to have this many different lot types per block face, and it has a table 0 to 100 feet, 0 to 300 feet. You have to have 1.5 shrub points, and a shrub point is like, you know, a half-gallon shrub or something. There's a lot, and it is very objective, and as we're going through the process, Laura, that runs the DRC process, is really working to make sure that if there are things that are either confusing in the code itself or in the process for applicants or other departmental reviewers, that we're addressing that so everybody knows this is what you need to submit, that we don't come back and say, hey, actually we wanted this thing, that we're clear in our communication and consistent, that we're reviewing accurately, not bringing up additional comments and additional reviews, and that we're providing a consistent and predictable process to the applicants and protecting the interests of the city. We've got a really good set of DRC reviewers, and just in the last year we reorganized and added a new department called Internal Services, and they do provide some engineering and project management services to other departments. And they actually have a guy in that department who just took his PE exam. I haven't heard how it went, but is very, very good. And he actually collects everyone's comments from Public Works and Power and everything, and collates those, and then kind of coordinates the continuous feedback and review on those. So we have an additional level of quality control, essentially, than we did previously, and it's really, really helped on the quality and completeness of our development reviews.
That's great. The reason because I just don't like to see you be out there on your own. I mean, we've had several people approach the planning commission with concerns about this or that, and it's like, well, we've been working at it for a month and or 2 months or 3 months and trying to get this all worked out, and then the way they present it, and it's like, go back, see what you can figure out. I'm just explaining that. If there's something I'm missing as far as that, is there some reason that that's happening, or is that a different?
On the legislative side, like with the
So the legislative side is where you're talking about.
yeah, that's
those-
all legislative. So everything on that Clyde subdivision and everything on the senior living, if they had made application with an application that met the code, we would have just checked it off.
So they're asking for a legislative.
They're asking for changes to the code.
Gotcha. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
so those things we can't ever, those will always come to you. We can't ever unilaterally as staff change the code or waive a requirement or say, hey, this doesn't apply to you. We have to come and pass an ordinance to say this doesn't apply to you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Josh?
Very helpful.
Thank you very much, Director Yost. As this is a legislative item, we will open the public hearing.
Seeing as no one has come forward to comment, wait. You coming up? Okay. I move we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other discussion? Anyone ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion. Move to recommend the adoption of the proposed code amendments to the development code and subdivision regulations, including the revised subdivision checklists.
We have a motion and a second?
I'll second the motion. Got it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Do we have anything else? That, no other items of business?
For those of you that have registered, for those of you that have registered for the Utah State Planning Communication Conference. That's coming up the 1st of October, I believe. And there should be some really good sessions there, and we're excited to have all of you that could join us. Other than that, there's a lot of stuff coming your way with plans and other efforts, so we'll try to keep you busy and informed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank staff also for all of their effort in going through and reviewing the code. There's a lot of strike-throughs in there, so it's a lot of work. And we very much appreciate it. Yeah. Well, we don't have anything else. Anyone wanna?
I move that we adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully over time.